Hello, Leanne. This is Alka from Global Women Power, and welcome to our show of Meet Our Sheroes. And I'm glad that you decided to be with us on this show, and honored and inspired. Most of the time, when we start our meeting and we do not know where we will go from here on, because we start being in the capacity of who we have become over a period of time. And also we go back to the being our original self, kind, compassionate, mother, sister, wife, all the roles of a woman. So we will just flow with the whatever comes up. But the way we start and we carry on is that, from where you are today and from where you started and where are you going? So over to you, Leanne.
Okay, that's a lot. Thank you for the opportunity. It's very nice being here. Let's see, where I started from first? Okay, as you can tell from my accent, I started in the States. And I currently find myself in Vienna, Austria, which I call home and have called home for almost 30 years now. But I started in the States, and my first job was actually scooping ice cream at all of the local ice cream parlors. But eventually I took a job in high-tech PR. And there were not a lot of women in high-tech PR. But I joined a company, it was a startup. And after about 5 years, the company was sold. And I made the decision to leave because I was young and ambitious, and I had been a director in the startup. And I quickly realized that I was going to become a very little fish in a big pond. A lot of directors and a lot of people with a lot more experience than I had. But instead of taking that as a learning experience, I decided to adventure and find something new. I had a personal opportunity to visit Vienna, which I chose to do sight unseen, and it turned out to be one of the better decisions in my life. I quickly got involved in networking with the international community, which is very helpful over here. And I was able to do a consulting project for a division of the UN, and ended up helping and working on the Fourth World Congress for Women, which was held in Beijing. So I got to hear Hillary Clinton speak, and Princess of Jordan, Queen of Jordan, excuse me, and a number of other people, and I learned a lot. My eyes were opened widely after that experience. And then I was recruited, or I was referred to a job at IBM. So that began my career working in high-tech companies. So I spent a number of years there running marketing for Central and Eastern Europe, which was very interesting, learning that environment and the people. Then I took on emerging markets in Europe. So I got to do some work with Africa and other countries. And then I was recruited away to Lucent Technologies. So I started to learn about telecommunications companies, which are very different than other IT companies, and about channels, distribution channels, and partner programs. And then the division I was working with at Lucent spun and started its own company called Avaya. So I spun with the new company and found myself suddenly in a position where I was running a European channel program, and they switched the products from hardware to software. So we had a very interesting time of moving from selling transactionally, selling products, like selling cups or pens or servers, to having to sell software and services around it. So really trying to drive to be a more consultative company, which, if done correctly, was also going to make us more profitable. I did that for a number of years and also was able to do a bit of work, interim work in Asia. And then I got tired of living on a plane and realized that I was about to turn 40 and my life was my work. So I made a decision to step out of corporate life and start my own company. And I did this in Vienna because I realized pretty quickly that if I went back to the States, then my value proposition and my differentiator was going to work against my new life goals, and that was to have a life. So the fact that I had done so much work internationally would mean that any US company I worked for would put me back on a plane to go and manage Europe. And so that would defeat the purposes. And so I started Alinea Partners, female-led, female-sounding, internationally sounding. And it started as interim management. And I realized that what my clients were asking me to do was scale my programs and scale myself. And so I came up with a way to start productizing our services so that whether I delivered them or you delivered them or anyone else on the team, the client would know what to expect and would get the same level of quality with that service. And so what we focus on is go-to-market services. A number of them are productized for the high technology and telecommunications market. And so what that means is we spend a lot of time doing assessments, running the only B2B secret shopping program in the market, and creating offers and go-to-market messaging and doing sales training for filling funnels or pipelines for high technology companies.
Perfect. Do you recognize that girl scooping ice cream?
Do I recognize girls scooping ice cream?
Yeah, the way you started. I said, do you recognize that girl?
Do I recognize her? Yes, because I learned a lot about customer experience. And I also learned about working with challenging bosses. And, working with small companies at a very young age. So I do recognize a lot of her, although she's changed quite a bit having lived in Europe.
But the basics, I think, remain the same though, right?
Yes.
Your trust in your customers, your involvement with your work, and the same thing continues. Without those things, this journey couldn't be this journey you talked about. It is very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. It is built on a lot of risk-taking versus strategic management of a set goal. But it's turned out well.
So whenever anybody talks about their success story, bigger the success story, and I always feel that bigger were the barriers which you overcame, and that's how you're here, right?
Yes.
So tell us some most challenging experience in this journey where you thought of giving up but it turned out to be the best thing. Is there any?
Sure. I mean, I think from the very beginning, leaving a company, that startup company that I felt very comfortable in and very senior in, and suddenly having to do or wanting to do something different, but having no idea what that is. and being willing and open to taking a step back and a breath and doing something different in the meantime led me to where I am. So that was the first one. I think the second one is something that a lot of people underestimate. And I see it with people who leave companies for whatever reason, but I also see it with people as they go into retirement. And that is, you build your life around a certain persona at the workplace, a certain title. And you define many people, especially in high tech and telecommunications, and especially, my generation, defined ourselves by the work that we did. We may have families and lives. I certainly built one after I decided that I wanted to do that, but it took a while. And when I left corporate life and I left my vice president of Europe, Middle East, and Africa title, and suddenly needed to generate business on my own, just my own name. And yes, I had referrals and I had a name, but I no longer had a big brand behind me. I had to prove myself all over again. And I had to redefine what I was going to do, who I was going to be, and who my company was going to be. And I think a lot of friends of mine who go into retirement or who leave their companies have that problem. But also when they go into retirement, they're used to being a certain work personality, and then there's a big chunk of their life that is undefined and unstructured, and they need to choose to either rebuild that and become someone new, or do the same thing that a lot of people do when they retire, which is travel around the world and read the newspaper and visit friends, and and it depends on what your goals are around that stage. But it can be a big shock to people to step out of who they are and suddenly, from one day to the next, be someone have to become someone else.
I can tell. And by, because by your appearance, I can't tell which generation you belong to.
Thank you.
When
Very
you
young.
said, yeah, and
I'm closer to 60 than not.
unbelievable.
Tell my grandchildren. They keep telling me how old I am. Because we're out owe me.
More
I
like how
agree.
young you are, not how old you are.
The admiration is coming spontaneously from me. And I know that when anybody talks about their story, they have to bridge it in a short span of time, while every moment counts, the way you live through it. And other very interesting aspect of your story is your international exposure and moving from one country to another and making that country as kind of a home country for you. Tell us a little bit about that. What prompted you, or was it your desire to be like that?
Absolutely not. It was trial and error. As I said, when I left this startup company, I was looking around for something to do. I didn't find a job right away. I was also a little bit without a goal. And my partner at the time had worked in Vienna, and he said he was going back to Vienna because he was asked to take another job there. And I said, great, I'll come too. Which you only do when you're 20 something. And so I threw some things into his truck, so to speak, or onto the plane. And I had no idea. I had never been to Vienna. I had been to Europe twice, to Spain in high school. And I didn't speak the language. But I landed with all the open eye and optimism that you can. and proceeded to network or, build community. And there's a huge community here of international people. And so it's very easy to be accepted and to be integrated, and people tell each other about jobs. So that's how that happened. Now, to that point, I lived oberflächlich, on the top, on the surface of the community in Europe and in Vienna specifically for 10 years. I could read a menu, but that was about it. Because by working in an American company and traveling all over the world, I only needed English. But what that meant was, while I was living a very nice life, I was not integrating, and I was missing out on a lot of richness of being involved in the Austrian community, or any other community if somebody's living somewhere else. And when I made the decision to start my company here, I really had to focus on learning the language. And, as a 40-plus-year-old person, regardless of gender, when you are used to, standing in boardrooms and speaking rather eloquently, and suddenly you can only speak, we say kitchen Deutsch, kitchen German, like my grandchildren speak when they're 5, maybe not even that good. You take a big hit to your ego when you sit through dinners and everyone is talking and you can't participate and you're not even sure what they talked about. Or you start to get better with the language and start to have the communication problems with your partner that you would never have in the same language. They're very interesting dynamics. The first time you get strong enough to say, I'm going to jump over my shadow and actually present in a business meeting in this other language. I'm amazed by people who speak 2, 3, 4, 5 different languages fluently. It is not easy, unless perhaps you are fortunate enough to have parents who speak different languages and you learn that way. But to learn non-organically, it's a tough road.
Of course. Because expression is the key to connecting with somebody, right?
Exactly. So
how did that meeting go?
How did the meeting? They were very nice. I started so late, I still have an accent. So when you speak marketing terms and sales terms that are normally English anyways, it always throws people off. But, when I look at CVs of people or people ask me for career advice, I'm amazed at how often people underplay their language skills. This is something that not everyone has. And if you really speak fluently, it means you have a diverse way of thinking. You know about not only business in different countries and in different languages, culture and history, and the knowledge base is much different from someone who only speaks and learns and speaks one language. So that's something that I always cast an eye on and comment on when I see that from people who are looking for jobs or who show me their CVs, their resumes, excuse me, for those who aren't working in Europe.
Curriculum vitae resume. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So another question is, in this journey, was it all self-motivation or some mentors or books or philosophy? What was it?
Yeah. I'm a big reader, but I'm not a big business reader. And I'm less of a big networking reader. I'm a big networker, I've learned that over time, but I prefer diverse networking groups versus exclusive. So, you know, I'm not so big on just female networks, but in general, because I think it's good to mix it up and have different thought processes. Although I recognize that they're very much needed to come over that hurdle, you know, to catch everything up. I have had mentors. I have to say I've had more male mentors, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I appreciate someone who will raise their hand and support and help honestly and with kindness and good intention, not just because they're looking to, you know, get the favor played back. And who, you know, my motto is, my hashtag is "She who lifts soars," because I also happen to be, I do weight training. But I honestly believe that. And there have been some very good mentors for me during my time at IBM, my time at Avaya, that I still speak to today, just to run something by them and, you know, get their feedback. So it happened that way. I'm also a big user of LinkedIn, and I use it as a community for driving business, but also, you know, there's the business and personal side that comes in to most relationships, business relationships. So I think that's the way it came about. As I said, I'm not someone who sits down and writes my 5-year plan, and I always fail that question on the interview.
So another thing, you can tell, I'm just picking up from what you are telling me, is that, you know, I also have friends in senior positions, like you are talking. But moment you switch from their lingo of business and what they did to, and move to the personal grounds, they fall short of, you know, topics and things to discuss. So I want to know, you know, how was the personal journey along with the professional growth?
The personal journey. As I said, I lived on a plane through my 20s and 30s. Saw a lot of great cities, and I worked a lot, and I had a great working, lot of friends that I met that way as well. But when I made a decision to commit to Austria, I also was fortunate to meet my now husband. So he spoke English fluently. That wasn't an issue, but his children didn't. So I have a plus family of 4 wonderful children. They range between the ages of 26 now, and she'll be 40 next month. And I have 2 grandchildren. So I quickly realized that if I was going to have a relationship with this person, I was going to have to speak his language with his children, which is also another challenge, especially in the beginning, and also with his friends. So if I was truly going to integrate and have a life here, then I needed to learn the language, learn the customs, learn, you know, the do's and don'ts, and really roll up my sleeves and put the hard work in. And that's what I did. And we've been together for almost 20 years now. So
that explains it, you know, that there's a balance there. It is not that the length of the marriage counts, but then, it's a different balance at home. And, even if you're a boss in your professional place, but when you come home, then dynamics are all different, right?
Yes, definitely. We're both the boss.
Both of you, everyone.
My husband's a doctor, so yes, it can get very interesting.
Okay, so Nancy, do you have any question?
Yeah. What was the fastest way for you to learn another language? Was it flip charts or playing games? And
Oh, wow. I got a personal teacher, and I did that for a while. And I had a long time where I understood a lot more than I was willing to speak. And the thing that finally really started to help me is going to the theater and just speaking with people who are now very good friends, because we can speak with each other. But going to the theater or watching movies in German, I know a lot of people who have English as their second language or their third or fourth watch a lot of film and movies, and that helps a lot. What I didn't do and should have done more of is reading. I'm an avid reader. That and the bodybuilding are my biggest hobbies. But I still defer to English when I want to pick up a novel and just relax and absorb. But that is one of the ways that my husband, and I know a lot of other people, have really not only just learned the language, but improved their vocabulary and nuance. So that's what I would say.
Can you unmute, Nancy?
liturgy and songs helped me.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. Songs. Yeah. I sing badly.
I
But
believe
music.
everyone sings well. When we're talking, we are actually singing. So you sing
Oh,
very well.
that's interesting, like birdsong. Yeah.
That's what I thought too when I was thinking of singing, that maybe not this lifetime. But then when I got a teacher, he said, sing in your own voice, because I was trying to sing like somebody else.
I would imagine you have a lovely singing voice. Your speaking voice is so nice. So
But
relaxing.
that was a recognition for me that I have to sing my own voice. I thought melody means like sing like some famous singers
Okay.
and change your note and tone. So that's
Right.
good. Hmm.
Yeah, be authentic.
Be authentic.
Mhm.
Any other question you have, Nancy?
Yeah. Can you relate to something as early in childhood as you can that reminds you something that's happening now that reminds you of something in your early childhood? That might be a difficult question to ask.
Oh, it's tough. I'm one of those people that doesn't have early memories.
Don't worry about that.
It makes my mother crazy. Um, she always says, "What was the name of that childhood friend?" And I say, "I don't remember." She knows. Something in my life. I guess because I have grandchildren, so young children. I never had children of my own. I have my plus family, but so it's for the first time I'm really seeing things through their eyes.
Wow.
And as I see that, I remember the first time I did that, or the first time I realized something, or I learned something. Or, I always say that, they are my grandchildren, they make lists like I do. There's something genetic there. But so I think through that experience, I see examples often of things that give me flashbacks.
Is the retirement part of your dictionary or no?
I'm sorry, is what?
Retirement.
Retirement. Not right now. My husband is happily semi-retired and has gone back to university and now has his working on his master's in philosophy. So it can be done very well. He also still works at the hospital. I don't know. I suppose I would still consult or something because I wouldn't want to go from 100 to 0 or 50 to 0, whatever it is, in speed of doing things. something will happen in my life where I'll decide that now is the time, but I don't know what that is right now.
Because, a typical day when you are still in bed and trying to get up or wake up, and it matters, what is in your head today, is that your knee is hurting, you have to see a doctor, or you have a consultation meeting, and get ready and then go there. How is your morning? How do you start your day? Full of worries or enthusiasm, looking forward to? How is it?
More often than not, enthusiasm. My day usually starts in a way that will annoy a lot of people. We're both morning people, so we start talking very early, and sometimes even before we're fully awake. So that does happen. Most days, my first thing is I go to the gym. So yes, I'm usually sore from one of my workouts, but when possible, that's my first thing. And I have a trainer that I work with 2 days a week, and the rest of the time I do that myself, or I do it with my husband. Then it's to the office, or if I'm working from home at that time, if I'm not traveling, which I do far less these days, it's usually, most of my work is done via computer. Microsoft's a big client, so via Teams. And then it is the evening program, so we do theater or opera, cabaret, or see friends most evenings. We live right in the city, and the children are all out of the home, so our evenings are our own, and there are a lot of things that are culturally based. Although we prefer theater to the opera.
Beautiful.
Both are good, but I'll take theater anytime.
You are living a dream life, though. Many people will envision. And another aspect of, gym, because I think gym for most of the people is first 7 or 10 days of every new year. Okay, I'm going to do it now. So how did you maintain it, or what is the personal motivation behind it?
When I was young, here's a memory. I was a dancer. I did all kinds of dance, ballet and jazz and lyrical, as we called it at the time. And as I got into my teenage years, I started to do a little bit of teaching. I was sure I was going to go to New York and be a rockette or something, or be in the ballet. And I hurt my knee. And the doctor said, if you do a little weight training, you can strengthen your upper legs, and it will make sure the kneecap doesn't rest, and rub. And then I won't build up more cartilage and won't, theoretically have a problem with my knee again, which I haven't. But I started to go to the gym and do some weight training, and I got hooked. So I have been doing it since I was a teenager, on and off, to varying degrees. And it was about when I turned 50 that I realized I needed to change my routine, because my body was changing. And so I got a trainer, and she is wonderful. Lara I talk about Lara like she's part of the family. But she's changed my routine, and I am an avid believer in weight training for all women. But as we get older, we lose bone density, and weight training builds it back. It is good for balance and stability. It's always good to be mindful of being healthy. We live better, longer if we are healthy. I can lift both my grandchildren together, 5 and 8. And it gives me a different quality of life with them. And so I'm a huge proponent of that. And it's been something I've done all the time. So I don't need to be motivated to go. I do self-motivate, but I also work out a lot differently if Laura's there than if I'm doing it alone. I have to be honest. She's a lot tougher.
So you've done weightlifting too?
Yeah.
What do you bench press, like a one-time lift? I couldn't get past 120.
I could do my weight. I'm talking kilos. I haven't been bench pressing since I've worked out with Laura because she says it's not for, it's just for show. It's not for strength, but so I could do 45 kilos, which would be like 100 pounds. But I couldn't do that today.
Me.
I've been doing it. So, and it's not the amount of weight. When I work out with my husband, he always says, oh, you can do another, couple of kilos. You can do more kilos. It's not that. It's being able to do it in a controlled way. Right. And focus and squeeze your muscles as you're doing it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I started to get much different results than I had gotten when I was doing it for years before. Mm-hmm. So I wrote a LinkedIn post about it. I said, it's not the weight, it's the focus, or it's not the weight, it's the squeeze. So
that is the simplicity of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this can be a very important piece of information for all our women folks, because we just end up putting on weight, including me. I go to gym as a hobby, like now and then, but then I think after this meeting.
Really? Oh, that's great.
It's going to change.
Oh, congratulations. Right back to me and tell me how it's going. I would send, well, Laura would probably like to come over.
Please do. She does it online as well?
I don't know, maybe. I can ask her. I'm sure she did during COVID, or during lockdown, I should say.
So any message, general, specific for women folk you have?
Gender specific. Gender specific. I think diversity is important, and however we get there doesn't really matter whether we force it, which we sometimes have to, whether it comes naturally, which thank God, time, evolution, growing up, makes that happen, or if we have to actually do a correction of behavior in order to get things on the right path. All of the above. But to get on the right path, we need to be diverse. We need to be open to changes, opportunity, kindness, genuine kindness. And that's what's going to get us through, regardless of whether we're talking about, a gender issue or an international issue, my culture versus your culture. And so at the end of the day, every little bit we can be to be open-minded and kind about it will get us set on the right path. I think that's what I would add.
So these 60 years, they look like an enriching journey to you?
Not yet, but yes, they have been. Yeah, when I hit 60, they'll be enriching. I think I will think, I've certainly done some things wrong. But overall, I've been very fortunate. A lot of it has come out of risk-taking, controlled risk-taking, you might want to say, but I've assessed myself at certain times, realized the gaps, and tried to do the course correction, as they say, and as a result, at 60, I will have a lifestyle business versus just a business. So, and I, continue to have my family, which I wouldn't have had if I hadn't focused on it.
How about
So,
writing a book
me writing a book.
about your journey?
I was going to ask her that too.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm. You should.
What should I write about? I just, I've been asked that, usually by ghostwriters, which would not be the route. So I've not yet come to a point where I've been able to get that table of contents in my head.
ChatGPT can help.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because
I'll try it. If it comes out with something interesting, can I run it by you two first?
but I think you owe it, because the kind of vast journey you have done, you should comprehend it for others and for yourself too.
I will think about that seriously.
That's
Thank you for the
that's
idea.
coming from me, that it feels like the chapter after chapter one should read about you, like, oh, how did you do this, how did you do that, and then it is going to make sense to people because otherwise it is quite expensive.
You need to go through that learning curve.
Yeah, because country to country diversity and change in the careers, and then going to the top of that, you might sound it like it is easy, but it's not.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right. I know. I mean, there are a lot of people that get stuck along the way, but yeah, I will think about that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your time. And most of the time, I never read about anybody's bio before I get in conversation, because I want it to unfold, and it has unfolded beautifully.
Ah, okay.
Basically.
I realize that. That's very interesting.
Mm.
I might try that myself. Yeah, I like the format. I think it's a very nice format. It doesn't feel forced. I do podcasts fairly regularly, and some of them just are like marketing machines. And so it's nice to have a genuine conversation. I was fortunate enough to do another one earlier, and it also got a little bit off the path of business. And so maybe I was primed.
Thank you very much. And hopefully we will cross path again with me looking like you.
Yeah. And my book.
Your book.
With you guys in the thank yous, in the acknowledgements.
We both owe it to each other.
Exactly.
Thank you once again.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Leanne.
Thank you. I'll see you in
Stay warm.
Facebook on the community.
Yes.